the money, for the fact of being in the circle of power for a little while, and this is enough for them. But if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, we're talking about an agenda that is unfolding throughout thousands of years, and many of these people will never see the whole true fulfillment, if you will, of the plan. So why do they keep supporting this, do you think? And as a top to that, or furtherance to that question, is it possible, do you think, that we have other types of beings with us in this case that actually are capable of living longer in one way or another, meaning that they are actually seeing the fulfillment of the agenda over the long period, the timeline, if you will, Josh?
I think it's very possible. I mean, we've had reports of, the Count of St. Germain appearing in, Mount Shasta in California, years after he was dead, talking about, underground bases and talking about, being immortals. I think that's definitely very real. But I think the reason why, as you mentioned, your question about why do they continue to push this forward and whatnot. I think for a lot of people, most of the ones that are in this at the highest levels, that's where, again, the whole bloodline thing ties in. What they're told, I think, at a very young age, when they start bringing them up the ranks through high school and into college, and then, as you mentioned, groups like the Skull and Bones at Yale and other groups like that. I think what it is that they're instilling in these people at a very early age this whole idea of family pride. It sounds silly, but I think that's how they get most of these people into doing this. Is they essentially say, look, you come from a family that has been in the power structure for thousands of years. I mean, for instance, the Bushes, you can trace the Bushes all the way back to Ramses II if you go far enough in the genealogical records. Mm. And I think that for a lot of these people, that's what it is. They're told, look, you are very powerful. You come from a very important, powerful family. You are one of these bloodlines. Everything you do is important. So I think that when they operate under that's what allows them to not really see the evil and the bad of what they're doing, because they believe that they are living up to their birthright by furthering this agenda and by continuing and passing it down to their children and their children after them. That's how they get a lot of these people. And I think some of them, as you mentioned, some of them are very aware of the power structure and aware of the larger agenda, but many are not. And as far as the whole thing with different intelligences and communicating with these spirits and different entities and even reptilians and stuff like that, I can tell you all those things. When I first started researching this stuff, Henrik, I was totally there's no way any of that stuff. But I've experienced things and I've seen things where, for instance, this is a great example. We talked about the CMP. One of their members is a guy by the name of Tom DeLay, former House Majority Leader here in the United States, involved in many scandals. He was involved in the stuff with Jack Abramoff and all the lobbying going on in the United States government. Well, I had an opportunity to approach Mr. DeLay back in 2007, and he was coming to do a book signing in Dallas, and my sister and I had went down to maybe confront the guy or whatever. But we kind of when it happened, we're kind of like, let's not kind of jump in his face. But I had on a T-shirt that said, what happened to World Trade Center Building 7, and my sister had on a T-shirt that said controlled demolition. And Tom DeLay walked up in the parking lot and he said, how are you guys doing? He looks down at her shirt, looks at my shirt, turns blood red, and then he looks at us and his eyes rolled over black, and he just looked at us and appeared to scan us up and down. Now, I had heard stuff about the reptilian stuff from people like David Icke and others, and I always thought it was just a bunch of hogwash, nothing to it. And then I heard this story, David Icke tell this story about being backstage at a BBC interview and the former Prime Minister of England being there. Yeah, Tom Heath, doing that to him. And I went, oh my goodness. Right. Maybe there was something to this, because there was no doubt, Henry, it was like he looked through us. I felt like I felt like I was looking at an entity from somewhere else. Like I wasn't looking at a man. And I tell you, it's one thing to see this stuff and go, it may be real or maybe not real, but man, it's totally different when you experience it for yourself and you go, oh my goodness, there's something dark and evil there. So, my research has taken me into looking into things like, the ancient text of the Goetia, which is a magical text for summoning demons and controlling them, and angels as well, that goes back to, the time of King Solomon. I look at stuff like John Dee channeling these entities, channeling these macrobes and different things. And then you of course, you coincide that with our modern day people who are involved in the Council for National Policy and the right wing, and they're involved at the highest levels of the priest class and religion. And you start to see, these guys are the modern day versions of this. You know, they're taking their marching orders from these off-earth entities, these fourth dimensional entities, just as much as people in the past were. But the thing is, we just don't see or can comprehend that that's happening. It's very easy for people to believe that, okay, the Knights Templar were channeling Baphomets and channeling, you know, entities through decapitated heads, and people see that and they go, oh, you know what, they probably were doing that. But then you tell them that, Tom DeLay or somebody like that is doing that, or some of the modern day, and they just don't want to see it. But this stuff has just been passed down continually, and I think that's another element of the whole communicating with off-earth entities, taking their marching orders from that. As I've gone up I kept going up the power structure, Henrik. I kept researching and going up and up and up. And, I found the Bilderberg group, I found the Rothschilds, and it just seemed like there was more there to me. And then, I came across, I think it was Michael Desarian who pointed out to me that, in the Encyclopedia Judaica, they make reference to the Rothschilds being the guardians of the Vatican's treasury. Yeah. And that was a huge thing for me. I went, oh my goodness, you see, now I get what's going on here, is that you go up and up and up, and you think you found the tip top of the pyramid. The groups get smaller. You go from the CFR to the CMP to the Order of the Garter to the Council of 13, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you kind of hit a brick wall. You say, well, wait a second here. Now, I can't find any more groups, on the earthly plane, so to speak. I can't find any more groups higher than the bankers or the Jesuits or the priest class or whatever else. But there still seems to be another layer of control there that's intangible, that we can't touch and we can't see and we can't define and put our hands on. And I think that's where this whole idea of the elite and of the people at the upper echelons channeling entities for information and getting information that they can use for their benefit and for their power, I think that's where that whole thing comes in at. So, it's one of those things where, again, people just have to look into any of this stuff for themselves and judge for themselves. And all I can do and all you can do, Henrik, is kind of relate how we see this stuff from our research. But, it's definitely there.
Absolutely. There seems to be a lot of families that are kind of the stewards or the keepers of the finances, if you will. We have a version of that here in Sweden, the Wallenberg family, a very, very wealthy family. And same thing there. It seems to be, it's not that they're not living, obviously, extravagant lifestyles and all that, but there seems to be something else going on there as well. It seems like they're just building the wealth like for something or for somebody. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the way to do it. Obviously, these are usually families that are not in the limelight. So from a person who's coming into this for the first time, they think they might have discovered the ultimate secret once they stumble over, the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds, if you will. But the fact is that there is more to it behind the scenes than that. So obviously they might just be in that position where they're keeping the control of the finances for somebody else. There's another thing I want to wing by you as well. A vital, obviously, component of the inner circle of the elite seems to be the importance, if you will, of joining any kind of secret society. Ritual and initiation into a certain secret society seems to be important. And I've kind of speculated that what if this is a form of mind control, or maybe even more advanced? It could be worse if you look at it from that point of view. It could be some kind of invitation to some of these entities that you mentioned, Josh, to kind of come in and take over the body. I've heard accounts from people who, they don't really truly understand the rituals that they go through, but yet they do it, and they pledge allegiance to an organization before they even truly understand what actually the allegiances is and what actually the role in this is. And that's just incredible to me. What do you make of that, Josh?
I think you're absolutely 100% correct. As far as I'm concerned, from what I found in my research, I started noticing that I have this. I ordered this off eBay 4 or 5 years ago. I found a copy of there was a second edition copy of Albert Pike's book Morals and Dogma, which of course is the great Scottish Rite Freemasonry book that they used to take them through all the degrees past the third degree. And I started noticing because I just picked the thing up and started reading it, even though that's not technically what you're supposed to do. And I had a friend who actually started reading some of this stuff on his radio show. And as he was reading this stuff on his radio show, his monitor started flickering, going out. He felt like he was being psychically attacked. All kinds of weird stuff started happening. And that's when I was reading those, texts out of Morals and Dogma, it dawned on me that the phrasing of the words, The way that they are written, it's like you read it and you go, wait a minute, grammatically, a lot of this stuff doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's because you realize that each word and each phrase and each sentence in Morals and Dogma has a mathematical and a sacred mathematical programming to it, an alchemical programming to where it is having an effect, reading it is having an effect on your subconscious mind. It may not be affecting your conscious mind, but think of your subconscious as a shutter on a camera. And what happens, Henrik, on a shutter on a camera? The more that you open it, slowly open it, what happens? More light comes in, right? It becomes clearer. And I believe that that's how your subconscious works in these secret societies. You go through the rituals, you go through reading this stuff, and slowly, your subconscious is opened up. And gradually, the more that your subconscious is opened up, the more it's wide open eventually for total control, total mind control, total programming, and total takeover. And I think that you're exactly right. That is what these secret societies are designed to do. They are designed to open your subconscious up without you knowing it so much that you are open to control from people, from entities, from possibly extraterrestrials, pretty much anything which could have the ability to manipulate your consciousness in a way that is beyond your control. So, yes, I think that's the double-edged sword of this secret information, as I mentioned earlier, is that, in the hands of the people that it's in the hands of right now, in the hands of the people it's been in for thousands of years, all we can see and all we have a reference point for is the evil connotations from it. We have never been allowed to exist in a world of possibilities where this stuff could be used for a positive effect. So of course, everybody's going to say all of this stuff is evil and all of it is for evil purposes because that's all we've ever known. So I think you're exactly right. I think that is definitely beyond, way before MK Ultra, way before any government mind control operations. Yeah, that's right. The original mind control operation was the secret society and using that to manipulate consciousness. The
words that people speak, obviously implying we spell the words. It is a spell. This emanates a frequency, and then you have the intention of this. You have creation of languages, the Elizabethan that John Dee and Edward Kelly were behind of, creating. There's a lot of interesting clues here. And I remember a few articles we've had up on redascreations.com about how words also, and frequencies actually program your DNA. It's a kind of a programming. These might be, texts or, initiatory rituals that have been left behind by someone or something else. And what if, just let's throw out a what if here, Josh. What if this is just a mind control program, an advanced but ancient mind control program that kind of just have run amok, if you will, within the human society. I'm not saying that it's not totally uncontrolled by anybody up at the ladder, but what if the program as such, as a meme, as a kind of a mind virus, have just taken over, and these people actually have no idea in that sense what they actually are doing or implementing? It's kind of a scary thought, don't you think?
Well, it is a scary thought, but I think it's one that's very valid, Henry, because the idea of the Trojan horse, in any of this stuff needs to be taken into account. How do we know that, the guys who became the priests, that's what oftentimes people forget. We talk about the priest class or whatever. People forget that, in the days of the original civilizations going back to ancient Sumeria, there wasn't congressmen and senators and lords and presidents. It was the priests. The priests were the ones who were in power. They were the ones who allegedly had the direct connection with these entities, with these gods, and then they brought back the information and gave that out to the people. I mean, how do we, as you mentioned, how do we know that everything from the very beginning of communication with these entities, from, as you said, our language, how we write things out, spellings, they are spells. I mean, we don't know. It just does seem that you're exactly right. Our language is designed to basically keep us in a state of arrested development. That's one of the things, going back to, as I was talking about reading Morals and Dogma, when you read the pages of that book, Henrik, you are unable, no matter how much command you have of your particular language, you are unable to read that book and then go to someone and say, okay, this is what it's about. This is what Morals and Dogma is about. You are unable in our current language to relate what is in those texts to someone else. I think it's by design like that. Yeah, I think absolutely that all this stuff from the very beginning has been designed to keep us in a state of arrested development. And the bottom line is that frequencies affect, you can manipulate someone's consciousness, You can manipulate someone's growth, their DNA structure, whether or not they're going to reach 12-strand DNA activation, any of this stuff, by the use and manipulation of frequencies, whether it's frequencies of sound, of the spoken word, of music, or any of this stuff. The key that I think that people are going to start to understand over the next several years is that frequencies and the manipulation of those frequencies has been one of the, if not the biggest weapon that has been unleashed on mankind for thousands of years.
That's right. And there's another point to this as